Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive. We're diving into a field that's just exploding right now, AI music generation. Not just talking about some simple melodies, we're talking vocals, full songs.
Yeah, we've got this fascinating paper on a new model called DiffRhythm, plus some notes on the latest breakthroughs in this field.
So for our listeners who, want to get a quick grasp on these big innovations, think of this as your cheat sheet to understanding what makes this diff rhythm thing so special.
Right on. Today, we're really going to dissect those core innovations of DiffRhythm. Why is everyone so excited about it? And what sets it apart? We'll be zeroing in on those new academic ideas, the real breakthroughs here.
And just to appreciate how far we've come, it's worth remembering what used to trip up AI when it came to making music, right? Like we had systems that could crank out some impressive instrumental pieces, others that were pretty good at vocals, but getting those to work together seamlessly, huge challenge.
Totally. It was almost like trying to force mismatched puzzle pieces together. And even when those models could handle both vocals and the accompaniment, they'd rely on these crazy complex multi-stage systems. Picture a whole bunch of intricate steps, each one having to work perfectly for the final song to sound good.
Right, right.
Plus, a lot of these systems could only generate, like, snippets of music, not whole songs. And let's not forget the time it took. Some of the most advanced models, especially those using large language models, could be super slow, just to make a short piece. DiffRhythm, as we'll see, offers a much simpler, faster way to get around those old problems.
Okay, so no more beating around the bush. What's the big deal with diff rhythm? What's the core idea that makes it different?
So from an academic viewpoint, what's really interesting is that DiffRhythm completely changes how we approach this. It's the first full diffusion-based model that can generate an entire song vocals and accompaniment all in one go. That's end-to-end generation. This is totally different from those older piecemeal methods we talked about. The big idea here is that by tackling the entire song structure at once, DiffRhythm avoids those complexities and potential hiccups of those sequential techniques.
End to end. You mean it doesn't generate the vocals separate from the instruments and then try to.
Thunder cracks the hourglass sky. Petals bleed through concrete cracks. With the seeds that run to fight, roots fly up through fading light. Dust won't settle on our skin. Clouds dissolve where we begin. Fists clenched tight around the sun. Tomorrow's wars are ours to won. Flowers of time we bloom through the ground.
Mash them up, it comes up with everything together.
Exactly. And get us, it's incredibly fast. We're talking full songs, some close to 5 minutes long, generated in about 10 seconds. This speed comes from its non-autoregressive nature. It doesn't make the music piece by piece, note by note. Huge difference from those language model-based methods that takes forever building things up step by step.
Wow, that's not just a little faster, it's like a whole different time scale for making music.
For sure. And to add to its academic value, the model is surprisingly simple. Doesn't need all those complicated layers or tons of pre-processing like the older systems. Just give it the lyrics and a style prompt and bam, it's off to the races. This simplicity is huge for scalability and future research. Makes it much easier for others to jump in and explore these advanced techniques.
This does sound like a game changer. So how does it actually pull off this and magic at such speed? You mentioned a two-stage architecture. Let's break that down.
Sure, the innovation in DiffRhythm happens in two distinct but connected stages, each one with its own unique tricks. The first stage uses a variational autoencoder, or VAE. Now, for our listeners, think of the VAE as a super smart compressor for audio. Like raw audio is a super high-resolution image. The VAE takes all that complex data and squishes it down into a simpler, smaller form, which we call a latent space. But crucially, it keeps all the essential sonic info intact. This makes it way easier for the AI to work with those long, complex audio waveforms in a diffusion framework.
So it's like finding the musical DNA and putting it in a format the AI can handle.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And the goals of the VAE during training are what make it so effective. Not only is it trained to really create the sound perfectly after compressing and decompressing it, which uses fancy techniques like multi-resolution, STFT loss, and adversarial training. But here's the really cool part. It's also trained for something called lossy to lossless reconstruction. You know how so much music data out there is in MP3 format? Well, the VAE is trained to take those lower quality compressed files and bring them back to their original high fidelity glory. This means it can not only work with the music data we have, but potentially make it even better.
Hold on, you're saying it can bring back the detail that was lost when the music was compressed to MP3?
You got it. By training on only the highest quality audio and then making it reconstruct that same audio from an MP3 version, the VAE learns to essentially fill in those missing high-frequency details. This is a big step forward for generative models working with real-world music data. And another interesting thing is that it's compatible with the latent space of the stable audio VAE. This opens up a whole world of possibilities for collaborating and building on research from other areas.
Wow, that's really clever. Okay, so the VAE delivers this efficient, high-quality musical essence. What happens next? That's where the diffusion transformer comes in, right?
Right. The second stage uses a diffusion transformer, or DIT. This operates within the latent space the VAE created and is in charge of actually generating the song. The basic idea behind diffusion models is to start with a bunch of noise in that latent space and then gradually refine it step by step until it becomes the music we want. The real magic is in how this refining process is controlled to create a specific song with certain qualities.
It's kind of like starting with a blurry image and then slowly bringing it into focus, but with music.
Exactly, and the DIT gets instructions on how to do this from three key sources. First, there's a style prompt, which is usually a short piece of audio that sets the musical tone. An LSTM network analyzes this prompt to extract the overall style. Second, a time step embedding tells the DAT how far along it is in the refining process. And third, and this is crucial for making full songs, the lyrics. These are converted into phone embeddings, which represent the basic sounds of each word. So the style, the progress of the words all work together to guide the DAT towards creating the desired song.
So it's constantly getting feedback on what kind of music to make, how far along it is, and what words to sing.
That's right, and because those latent sequences representing full songs are pretty long, the researchers had to get clever with the DAT's architecture to make sure it could handle all that data. They used decoder layers from the LLaMA language model, known for its ability to handle long sequences. They also used techniques like flash attention to and gradient checkpointing, which are fancy ways of saving memory and speeding things up when you're dealing with lots of data.
Sounds like they really fine-tuned the inner workings to handle those long, complex songs. Now, one thing that really caught my eye is how they tackled the problem of lining up the lyrics with the singing. That can't be easy when you're generating a whole song.
Yeah, that presents some serious challenges, especially with full songs that have instrumental parts and sections where there's no singing. The researchers call this discontinuous temporal correspondence. It means that traditional text-to-speech methods, which usually deal with continuous speech, just don't cut it here. Plus, having the instruments playing at the same time adds another layer of complexity to aligning the singing properly.
So it's not just about generating the right words, it's about placing them at the right moments in the music, even when there are gaps in the singing.
Exactly. And DiffRhythm introduces a new solution called sentence-level lyrics alignment. Instead of trying to align every single sound, which would need a ridiculous amount of labeled data, they focus on aligning the start of each sentence. This makes the process way more manageable.
That's a smart approach. How does it work in practice?
Okay, so first the lyrics are split into sentences, and each sentence is turned into a sequence of those sound units, phonemes, using a G2P converter. Then they create this thing called a latent aligned sequence, which is basically a representation of the entire song in the latent space. Now, for each sentence of lyrics, the model goes and overwrites the corresponding part of this latent sequence based on where the sentence starts and the frame rate of that latent representation.
So it's like marking the starting point of each lyric sentence on a musical timeline within the latent space.
That's the gist of it. And what's really important from the academic perspective is that this approach, using only minimal supervision, results in vocals that are remarkably clear. When they removed this sentence-level alignment, the clarity of the singing dropped significantly. This proves just how crucial this innovation is for bridging the gap between lyrics on the final audio output.
That's seriously impressive. Okay, let's move on to how they put DiffRhythm to the test. What kind of data did they use for training, and how did they measure its performance?
They trained DiffRhythm on this massive multilingual data set of almost 1 million songs, which is around 60,000 hours of audio. There was music in Chinese, English, and even some instrumental pieces. They also did some cleaning up to make sure the lyrics they used were accurate. To evaluate the model, they used a mix of objective measurements and good old-fashioned listening tests.
So objective metrics would be those quantifiable ways to measure things like audio quality and how easy it is to understand the words.
Exactly. To assess how well the VAE reconstructed audio, they use metrics like short-time objective intelligibility, PGAI, perceptual evaluation of speech quality in PESQ, and Mel-Cepstral distortion, MCD. For the end-to-end song generation, they use phoneme error rate, PEI, to see how accurately the vocals were generated, and for Shuai audio distance, FAD, to gauge the overall quality and diversity of the music. In addition to all those numbers, they had human listeners rate the generated music on things like musicality, overall quality, and how clearly they could understand the singing.
So a really thorough assessment. What were the main takeaways from all those tests?
The results were pretty convincing. First off, their VAE blew past other publicly available VAEs when it came to recreating audio faithfully, especially when it came to audio that had been compressed to MP3. It actually managed to recover some of the detail lost during compression, outperforming established models like Music 2 Latent and Stable Audio 2 VAE in that specific scenario.
That's a huge advantage in the real world where so much music is in MP3 format. How did the complete DiffRhythm system fare when it came to creating entire songs?
When they compared DiffRhythm head-to-head with SongLM, a state-of-the-art model, the results showed that DiffRhythm produced higher quality audio overall, and the singing was much clearer, as shown by a lower phone error rate. What's impressive is that it was just as musical as SongLM, but generated music around 50 times faster. The listening tests pretty much back this up, with people generally preferring DiffRhythm's output for its quality and clear vocals.
50 times faster. That really shows the power of their design choices.
For sure. And they even did a study where they removed the sentence-level lyrics alignment part, and it confirmed that this was absolutely key to getting those clear vocals in the generated songs.
So their experiments really proved that the innovations in DiffRhythm work. What does all this mean for the research world?
From a research standpoint, DiffRhythm is a big step forward for AI music generation. It's the first time we've seen a fully end-to-end diffusion-based model that can generate complete, high-quality songs with both vocals and accompaniment at such incredible speeds. And its relatively simple design and the fact that it doesn't require a ton of pre-processing makes it even more important. It suggests a more accessible and scalable direction for future research. Also, they've publicly released their code and trained models, which is huge for making sure others can reproduce their work and build on it.
Open research is always a good thing. What about the potential impact beyond just research? What could this mean for music creation and the music industry?
The implications for musicians and the industry are huge. Being able to make high-quality full songs so quickly and easily could completely change how people create music. Imagine being able to quickly test out musical ideas, try different styles, or even make custom music tailored to a specific person. For the industry, it could streamline the whole production process, saving time and resources.
It sounds like a tool that could empower anyone to create music and open up all sorts of new creative avenues. Now, even with all these amazing advancements, the researchers admit there are still some things to improve. What did they point out?
They highlighted a couple of areas for future work. First, the current version of DiffRhythm can't do things like in-painting or out-painting. That's where you would edit or extend specific parts of a song. They think incorporating something called latent representation, masking during training, could help with this.
So being able to fine-tune specific parts of a generated song.
Exactly. The second thing is that it currently relies on audio clips to define the musical style. While this works, it's not as flexible as being able to just describe the style you want using words. They suggest that future research could look into integrating natural language understanding to give users more precise and intuitive control over the style, maybe even getting rid of the need for audio references altogether.
Those would definitely be some powerful upgrades, giving even more creative control. So, to wrap up our deep dive into DiffRhythm, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
The things to remember are that DiffRhythm is a pioneer in using latent diffusion for end-to-end full song generation. It's crazy fast and efficient thanks to its non-autoregressive approach. It uses a clever sentence-level lyrics alignment method that makes the vocals super clear without needing tons of labeled data. And the VAE is a beast when it comes to handling real-world compressed audio, even potentially enhancing its quality. Today, we really focused on those core academic breakthroughs and how DiffRhythm marks a significant leap in the field of AI music generation.
For sure. DiffRhythm is a whole new approach to music creation with some serious game-changing features. And as we close, here's something to ponder. Think about what it means to have such a powerful tool for making music and how accessible it is. How might this technology change the way we think about music altogether? What new forms of artistic expression will pop up now that these technological barriers are crumbling, and what amazing possibilities lie ahead as researchers push the limits of what AI can do with music. That's pretty mind-blowing.
It is, and if you're eager to dig into the nitty-gritty, the research paper's out there for everyone to see, and they've released their code too. Definitely worth checking out if you want a closer look at this groundbreaking work.